Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, colleagues. Thank you for coming. We have tonight something special. It's a delegation from Israel and Palestine, from Israelis, from Palestinians, who came to Vienna yesterday, and we had talks with different representatives from different political parties, from the Jewish community, from civil society, with former President Heinz Fischer. And of course, we also want to invite you, and you came to a public debate. It is, according to a Beatles song, a hard day's evening, because they were talking and discussing all the day long today, but also yesterday. What is common with them is the longing for peace. Peace between Israel and Palestine, between Jews and Arabs and Druze and whoever is living in this area. And what is common to them is to defend the human rights for everybody, equal rights for everybody. And what is coming, that they say no solution as it is now is not acceptable. We want change, we want a solution. Most of them still believe in a two-state solution, but you can discuss the way such a two-state solution can be solved. And that's the reason why we support them, because I think it is very important with all the geopolitical conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. We should not forget that there is one conflict, which is not a conflict between two states, because one state is still not existing or not recognized, but between people, and where the one side is discriminated, and on both sides there are people who are not accepting discrimination, not accepting no solution, but they still fight for solution. And they came to Europe also to appeal to us, to everybody of us, to help them to overcome decades of conflict, of suppression, and not to forget this core conflict in the Middle East. That's the basic message, and of course, Stephanie, our director, will moderate the discussion, and I think it is very, very important that we don't forget that conflict, we don't forget the people who suffer from that conflict, and that don't forget that there are, of course, Palestinians who suffer, but there are also Israelis who suffer because of that conflict, and therefore we should fight to overcome it. This is a project which we do together with I say with Schleining, because that's more perhaps in our mind than the abbreviation you will use. And of course with the Kehlmann Institute, it's a joint effort, and therefore I want to hand over to Gudrun, who will present the other side. And I'm very grateful, Gudrun, to you and to Wilfried that we have the opportunity to have our guests here. And it is not the last event. We will continue to work on this issue, because it is something for our emotion and something for obligation we as Europeans have. Go on, please.
Thank you very much, Hannes, and dear ladies and gentlemen, also welcome to this evening on my behalf. Gudrun Kramer, Austrian Study Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution. I think Hannes mentioned the most important issues. We do think that it is important to give a stage to voices for peace from Palestine as well as Israel, because we do know, and if you look at daily politics today, with the Trump deal of the century, and a couple of days ago we heard that the US now thinks that the settlements are not illegal according to international law, that we have here today a group from both sides that wouldn't agree with this, and really a group that still thinks that peace can be made. Yeah, and I think we all, when we think about the Middle East, when we think about Israel and Palestine, we all think, anyhow, it's not possible to find a solution. But I think this is part of the conflict, and we created the conflict. Therefore, I'm deeply convinced that it's also in our hands to solve this conflict. And how to solve conflicts? It's by dialogue. Unfortunately, because of your experiences, I think on both sides, the strive to go for a dialogue again is quite low. Yeah, and also many people in Israel and Palestine believe there is no solution to the conflict. So I think probably the first step is really, to condition ourselves again and to say, yes, peace is possible if we want it. And I think this is your message, and thank you very much for this cooperation. We went together to Israel and Palestine, Stephanie, Hannes, Wilfred, and I, this year in February, and this is one result of our joint trip, that we do have this joint event today, and I'm also looking forward to this cooperation. And I think we want to thank our teams, but this is something you will do probably at the end, Stephanie.
I will.
So I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gudrun. Thank you very much, first of all, to all of you who came, because I think this is very important that we are not, because we had meetings all day also between ourselves, but I think it is also very important that we also talk to the public a little bit, because there is a vision which is shared. Probably it's not in every detail, but it is happening. And I think it is not really what we get every day, that you do have in Vienna, in a foreign country, Palestinians and Israelis sitting on the same table and saying, but there are actually partners for peace. In the last decades, you could feel, especially after the Second Intifada, that the argument for not going into a peace process is because there is no partner. But I think this is not true, and this is also one of the reasons why we are here. And I really look forward to the distinguished panelists who will share their vision. I'm not going to introduce everyone right now, so I start just very shortly on my left, but I would also like to stress that I think it's more interesting for the audience if we do not give very, very long statements, but just very shortly convey the message. We can then react towards each other. Of course, that's possible. And I have prepared many questions, so I'm not going to run out of questions. But just to let you know, I think that we can have 1 or 2 rounds of talking between ourselves, and then I would also like to give the opportunity to our guests to ask you specific questions. First of all, I would like to introduce and welcome very, very much Mr. Shaddad Attili. He's from Palestine, and he used to be Minister for Water, but he's also, and this is surprisingly, it came as a surprise for us, he also is responsible for the friendly relations with the Jewish or Israeli society. And we didn't even know that this is existing. So I really would like maybe that you can tell why this is established, what is the vision behind it, and what do you think you can share with us, and why is it important, and what has this to do with you being here in Vienna right now at the moment?
Well, thank you, and good evening to you all, and thanks for attending this session. It's not a debate because actually there is a common agreement about the conflict resolution, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has to come to an end. So we're not debating whether there should be a solution or not. We're here just to tell you that we're here to make our voice is heard as those who believe in peace in the Holy Land. As you ask about this committee, actually, this argument between Israeli and Palestinian that each claim that there is no partner. So the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has established 6 years ago, 6 years and a half, a presidential committee headed by a central committee member from Fatah to head a committee called Interaction Committee with Israel Society. And last year we added also and a Jewish committee in the world. So I joined this committee a couple of years ago, and I witnessed a lot of work that my colleague in this committee they did in terms of interaction with the Israeli society, Israeli civil society, Israeli political parties. And then I found that they weren't really focused on those who believe in peace. They were looking for the right wing, the extremists, those who doesn't believe in peace. And they held a different meeting, including with those former generals who served in the army. They tried to make the Palestinian voice heard. Try also to tell the Palestinian narrative, how we see things, how we see solution for settlement, how we see solution for refugees, for Jerusalem, for border, for the Palestinian state, and how this state can be lived in peace and security with Israel. And we found that the majority of the Israelis, who are not politicians, the normal Israeli, frankly, they don't know a lot about the Palestinian sufferance and the Palestinian who lives inside the West Bank or in Gaza or behind the wall. And the good thing that we start seeing the Israeli coming and meeting with us. And when we saw this, we have established a Palestinian forum for peace and freedom. And now we are counting more than 200 of politicians, former and current ministers, academic, civil society, women's. And we try to reach out to the Israelis. We have been faced, our work is not really easy, even we have been faced with the BDS movement, that they see that any contact with the Israeli is kind of a normalization, and that we shouldn't. And we told them that we have to reach an agreement with the Israelis, not with anyone else. And this is why we have to talk to Israelis. And we have to tell them, okay, how we see things from our perspective. We're doing a lot of work inside Palestine and Israel, and we start taking certain steps in Europe. So we had good meetings with officials, with Jewish community in Netherlands. And this is the second meeting that we are taking here. And maybe you will be seeing us much, actually, because we believe in this. And we believe that solution is a must for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We have been, why we are accelerating our effort, because recently we have been bombarded with a set of action that taken by Trump administration, starting by violating the UN Security Resolution or the General Assembly Resolution 478 related to Jerusalem, when they moved their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which kind of not playing a neutral, honest broker between the Israeli and Palestinian, start creating fact on the ground, followed by closing our mission in Washington, then cutting all the US aid, and US aid, one of the biggest donor in Palestine, more than $365 million has been cut, and called all the US aid project staff to leave their offices. And then after they closed the American consulate in Jerusalem, then they changed this terminology. There is no more the word occupation related to Golan Heights and occupied territories in their report, and also start defunding UNRWA and ask us to redefine the refugees if we wish to that the Americans resume their funding. And recently, this decision taken by the American in violation of the international law, in violation to the values also of the international community, that considering settlement are not violating or doesn't contradict the international law. And here, make us really at high alert, because this is really an issue. The settlement activities, this is what made the Israeli-Palestinian talk come to an end. And now when you kind of legitimize the settlement, that now you are killing the two-state solution. And if you kill the two-state solution, you don't leave people with another option. And if people start, as we start hearing that one-state solution is the solution, we are here to tell you this is the recipe for a bloody phase that come in the Holy Land, because for different reasons, I will come to that if the moderator allows me to go in deep to such analysis.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very happy you gave me several keywords on which I will go, which I will like to follow up first, and especially with Mr. Zeidan Atashi. I think he just mentioned, first of all, two-state solution and also one-state solution. And I remember when I have been also discussing about how we can include people to engage in this issue, that I heard from several also Jewish diaspora, but also Palestinian diaspora, we do not believe any longer in a two-state solution. Mr. Zeidan Atashi is also a very specific person, because he is maybe you can introduce yourself. You're Israeli? No, because he's a Druze sheikh, so but he's Arab and he's Israeli. And what is your stance on a two or one state solution? What do you think? What is the vision you would like to share with us?
Thank you very much. I will be very short now. I don't know the procedures in a few minutes. As a minority living in Israel, I'm Israeli. I'm super Israeli. And I'm super Druze and I'm super Arab. So I am a minority, but the Druze serve in the Israeli Defense Forces for the last 50 years. Whether we like it or not, this is the situation. So there is a decision by the Israeli government that compulsory service in the army, that means that all the Israeli citizens have to be soldiers in the Israeli Defense Forces. I'm not going to talk about the others. But having served in the Israeli Defense Forces way back, and my sons and my relatives and my community, I think I am most loyal to Israel than I am no less loyal to Israel than any Jew in the world. Because I stand with Israel in most critical times, peace and war. I am proud of Israel, democracy, achievements, advancement, liberty, education, high-tech. Any troubles in the Middle East between the Palestinians and the Israelis tomorrow will disturb all what I just said. Will disturb our democracy, our achievements, our parliament, our neighborhoodness, our reputation in the world, because I don't want to be a warrior. I want to be a peacemaker. And out of my loyalty to Israel, I have the honor to criticize the way of my government. Now, why two-state solution? I would ask all of you to review the world international environment in the last 50 or 70 years. Any one state for any two communities will never coexist based on separate nationalities and religions, and especially in the Middle East. That means, I give you just examples as a reminiscent to remember. Lebanon has a national accord since 1943. Two religions, Islam and the Christianity. Just leave the Druze aside. Always they have revolutions or disruptions in Lebanon. They never existed peacefully, permanently. Always. Cyprus, not far from where we are. Cyprus is still divided since 1974 or 75 until now between Muslim Turks and the Christian Turks. I go far, even Ireland suffered many casualties, thousands, and civil wars. And we can't count why two nationalities and two religions cannot live under sovereign state, especially if the little majority will rule over the other minority. That's what I'm saying. This is why I'm struggling, is to have two states for the Palestinians to have their destiny and for independence and to keep their sovereignty, neighboring Israel. Just like Israel and Jordan, just like Israel and Egypt. And that might give a hope to my children and the grandchildren and to the Israelis and to the Palestinians to cease the state of enmity, quarrels, mutual killings in Israel. The last thing that I would like to say in this opening, we have facing now in Israel a very unusual coalition government. Now, while the very minority in Israel rule over the very majority in Israel, which means the extremist right of the settlers and the nationalistic religious, they have, all of them have 20 seats. They can run the politics of the Israelis, the 100% of the Israeli politics of Israel. We have 120 seats in the Knesset. 20 of them are radicals only. So how come I can agree that this minority decides the destiny of my country, Israel, and also the Palestinians? I think we have to have two-state solutions.
Thank you very much. I would now like to go to Eti Livni. She used to be a member of the Knesset. She's also a former politician. And you're also now engaging in the civil society, as far as I know. But maybe if we go back to what was just said, one or two state solution. I mean, we have been talking a little bit, everyone knows what is going on now in Israel with Netanyahu probably facing corruption charges, but also even Netanyahu, like several years...
Not only financial corruption, moral corruption.
Yeah, and even Netanyahu, like several years ago, he was always saying that, no, the two-state solution is what we want. But if you look at the actions, you cannot really see or feel that he was actually pushing forward. What would be your stance on this situation?
Thank you for coming to listen to us. Your support is very important for all of us. We are in difficult times in Israel now, and it was mentioned here, we are facing now the third election in more or less half a year, and there is a balance between the right wing and the center. This is Netanyahu vis-a-vis Benny Gantz. And Netanyahu has all these radicals, the right wing, the extreme right wing, and the religious party. And Gantz is supported more or less by the Arab party from outside, might be supported. But this is not the issue now. You asked me about the two-state solutions, that Netanyahu said two-state solution. Yes. He did say in one of his speeches in the Bar Ilan University that he is for two-state solution. He never said it again. It was one time, and all the left and the center were very happy with him, but not anymore. And because of his coalition, because his survival is dependent upon the religious and the right wing, so his ideas now, his positions now, identifies with this kind of this part of the Israeli society, and we get the Likud, which is the moderate, might be called moderate right wing, is influenced by the extremist, and he follows. For me, as a member, civil activist, ex-member of the Knesset, I was involved in the last, let's say, 15 or something like this years with all kind of initiative of two-state solution. I was a part of the Geneva Accord, which is a kind of initiative that after a while we put on the table 5 volumes of contract between Israelis and Palestinians about the water that you refer to, about everything, borders, all the main issue, borders, Jerusalem, refugees, water, of course, and all these issues, security, definitely, that's the first one. But there is a solution to all these issues, more or less accepted by two sides, and when it was published, we consider that more than 50%, almost 70%, to say the truth, could support this kind of solution. Unfortunately, it didn't came to reality, because all kinds of things, and there was intifadas, and there was all kinds of changes of prime minister. 2008, there was another attempt for the two-state solution. It was initiated by the Prime Minister then, Ehud Olmert, and the Foreign Minister, Eti Livni, vis-à-vis the Palestinian, Yasser Abed-Rabu and others. And we also succeeded to have an agreement, or a draft for agreement. And unfortunately, at that time, Olmert had to leave his office and resign because all kinds of charges against him. From then on, there was no real attempt to go on to the negotiation and the dialogue. For me, the only solution is the two-state solution. There are lots of reasons why the two-state solution is the only solution, and I would like to add another argumentation, which probably you are familiar with it, is the demography issue. I don't know if it's the main issue or not the main issue. For me, the occupation is the main issue, but the demography is a very crucial issue up to the Israeli public, the civil society, because the whole idea of Israel is to be a Jewish state with the majority of Jews there that can form their life independence. And once we have one state solution, we will have more or less the same number of Palestinians and Jews living together, said in a conflict, probably in a permanent conflict. And then the whole country will be, it could be governed by the Palestinians. There will be majority of the Palestinians, and the whole idea of the Jews for hundreds of years, thousands of years, will disappear. So this is one of the main arguments that also, not the leftists, also the centrists that are preaching for the one-state, the two-state solution are using it. So this is for the just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eti. We are now going to our last speaker, who is Mossi Raz. He's a politician and also former Knesset member. You said I think in February you have been telling us that it is very difficult these days, you still were at the Knesset at that moment, that it is very difficult to talk about peace, to talk about the conflict, to talk about a resolution of the conflict within Israel. So what would you say now? Is this changing at some place, or do you think this has to be changed in order to what? In order to get to the solution, in order to get to a two-state solution? Or do you think we should also get into other concepts, like we have been discussing also this two states, one homeland situation? What is your idea about this process?
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for coming, everybody. Good evening. Yes, it is difficult to talk about peace because we are now, after almost 11 years, with Netanyahu as Prime Minister. Netanyahu as Prime Minister, his methods were to incite all the time against the Palestinian minority in Israel and against the Palestinians in the occupied territories. That's why in Israel, if you ask the average Israeli, unfortunately, what are the Palestinians, who are the Palestinians, what they want, they will tell you they want to kill us all. This is what they really think, unfortunately. This is why it is so difficult today to talk about that. Now, it is everywhere. It is in the media, it is in the education. I will give you two examples, one from the education, one from the media. I think you have heard from me in these 2 days. The media in Israel, by the way, I believe it's the same in Palestine, but I don't want to talk about Palestine. I'm an Israeli, I want to talk about Israel. The media in Israel is talking only about the Israeli narrative. It's not a question of left-wing or right-wing, only about the Israeli narrative, with exception of Haaretz newspaper, but unfortunately, most of Israelis don't read Haaretz. What do I mean? I mean that if there is a Palestinian suffer, Palestinian who was killed, Palestinian who lost his eye. All these things are not existing in the Israeli media. When something happened to an Israeli, then all the media is only about that. In this way, and one example from the last 2 weeks, 37 Palestinians were killed in Gaza, out of them 9 from one family, 5 kids. It was hardly mentioned in the Israeli media, not Haaretz. Haaretz mentioned. Hardly mentioned. If you ask Israelis, they don't know about that. They know about missiles that Palestinians sent to Israel, but thankfully no Israeli was hurt out of them. But in this way, we educate the Israelis that we are under attack. We are the victim and they are the aggressors. In the education, the same. The same. So under this, if I'm sure that they are the aggressors and I'm the victim, why should I agree to an agreement? I have to protect myself and I have to hit back. Two-state solution is not a vision. My vision is freedom and securing human rights to everybody, Palestinian, Israel, everybody, all the religions, all the nations, there. I think the best way to do that is through the two-states model. This Friday, we are going to mention 72 years anniversary to the UN resolution for two-state solution. The Arabs and the Palestinians were too stupid to not to accept that in 47, and we, the Israelis, are too stupid not to accept that now in 2018. And this is a mistake that they have done, and this is a mistake that we do right now and all the last decades. Now, I don't think that we are worse than the Palestinians or they are worse than us. We have more power, and that's why we use our power, more than what they can use their power. But we use it in a mistaken way, because the right way to use our power is to agree to such an agreement. I'm not an opposing, I don't oppose one state. If one can secure in one state human rights, Okay, but I don't think that it is possible. We have to know there are here two national movements with two flags, with two different history, with two different language. They don't want to live together. They cannot live together. They cannot share a state, unfortunately. So for those reasons, I prefer the two-state solution. But last sentence, we have occupation. Israel is the occupying power in the West Bank and Gaza. They say Gaza. We should bring an end to the occupation, and okay, for my opinion, it is up to the Israeli government. They have to bring an end to the occupation. If they want to bring it in one state, okay, go ahead. I'm sure that if they must bring an end to the occupation, they will bring it in two-state solution. This is the best way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mossi. Very shortly, Mr. Shaddad, taking also into account the asymmetry of the occupation, it was mentioned there is of the conflict. It was mentioned there is occupation within the West Bank. He also mentioned Gaza, and also maybe the importance of emotions. But if you hear what Mossi was saying, like, would you agree on that? Is this also how the Palestinian people do see this process? That there is only that a one-state solution could even be possible, but it's not what we prefer. What do you think?
And let me first welcome what has been said by Eti and Mossi, as well as by Zeidan. Okay, you don't frequently or rarely you hear such Israeli messages that telling that occupation has to come to an end, because we really suffer, and the Israeli also suffer from this ongoing conflict. And we're not here debating the rights and the history, okay? We're here just to tell that since 2003 that the international community put this roadmap where they envisage that we say solution is the solution. And such roadmap has been made during the 2002, the difficult period of the second Intifada. So, whether in 1947, the partition that you just referred to, or in the 2003, okay, that the roadmap and the international community engagement, now we shouldn't change the game because we don't know the outcome of the game. We start hearing Palestinian, even intellectual, okay, that they start saying, guys, with this ongoing settlement expansion, bypass roads, because we do have different transportation system, one for settlers and one for Palestinian. It's kind of an apartheid if you come and see, while in Gaza it's under blockade. People start saying that there is no place, there is no space to build a Palestinian state. And they start saying, let it be, let's fight for equal right. So you're having two parts of the Palestinian. There is certain part they're saying, what is the solution? But this is state named Palestine. It's not Israel, and then we have to struggle toward equal right. And the other, they're saying, okay, let it be. If the Israel, the most powerful country, and because of the asymmetry of the power between the parties, if they don't want to have two states, okay, let's start from now. And we know it's not in the next day or the next year or the next decade we will get our equal right. But it's a recipe for what I called a bloody phase that will come afterward. If two-state doesn't work, or people, they don't have attention to work on this, or fed up, like Europe, to get massaging this conflict between the Israeli and the Palestinian. So if the two-state solution, there is kind of a disengagement. And one-state solution, we're saying that we do have evidence that it will not work. So people start talking about third state, which is Gaza to be affiliated to Egypt, and what remains from the West Bank will be affiliated to Jordan. And we start hearing voices that, okay, you Palestinian, if you would like to have your country, your state, it's in Jordan, which is kind of sending the conflict to the neighboring countries. While now, what we see that Israel start to looking for normalization with the Arab countries, and we said, there is the Arab initiative that has been put in 2002, that resolving the Palestinian conflict and establishing the Palestinian state, resolving all related conflict, will make the Arab and Muslim country, including Iran, to normalize with Israel. So this is the Arab initiative. It has been adopted by all Arabs at the Arab League. And we put it at the table and we said, okay, let's resolve. Now the Israelis are saying, no, we normalize and then we think about resolving the conflict. Israel can have meetings with the Gulf countries. Israel and Israeli delegation can go to Qatar and Emiratis and can go in secret and unsecret meetings. But frankly, looking at the treaty signed between Jordan and Israel, looking at the treaty signed between Egypt and Israel, so what's happened? Do the Israeli feel safe going and walk in the Jordanian market, in the Jordanian street or in Cairo? No, because there is something, the confidence has not been built between the Arab and the Israelis. So you can reach official agreement, but you cannot implement it. And this is, we take example of this since 78 when the Egyptian and the Israeli signed the agreement, or since 1994 between the Jordanian, and still there is no kind of, I don't want to say cohabitation, acceptance between Israeli and Arab because of the non-resolution of the Palestinian conflict. So I end by saying, it's not a luxury that we call and we ask to end occupation. We are people who lives under occupation, and it's a shame if, like Dr. Zeidan said, Israel is a democracy, it's high-tech, it's blah, blah, but Israel is occupying other people. Okay, and this occupation has to come to an end because we do have our right for self-determination and to live in freedom and dignity, and this is what we are fighting for.
Thank you very much. I think we tried to explore a little bit the two-state solution. Also, one-state solution was mentioned, but then also third state, which means actually the dissolution of what would be called Palestine. Nevertheless, what we are talking is a lot, always, I would say, a little bit top-down, but there is also a bottom-up approach, and I think it was also quite interesting what Mr. Attili also said today, that most of the people are not really interacting a lot. The most interaction is actually between soldiers and between people from the army and Palestinians.
And the army is the majority in Israel who believe in two-state solution. This is they're pushing for, because they know they are in daily contact with the Palestinian people. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's the army really who, and even now from the chief Mossad, they are presenting for us a proposal based on the two-state solution, but different vision, how to resolve security, how to resolve refugee, how to resolve Jerusalem. But we do receive different proposals from the former general who served in the army.
Okay, and but now let's maybe go very quickly again to Eti, because I know you need to leave earlier. But as you're also working within civil society, what is your approach on that? Do you see that do we need like more people-to-people contact in order to create a new narrative, which would include that everyone would actually gain from a peace process, from the revival of a peace process? Do you see this possible?
Definitely. I'm a great believer in the civil society, and you can see in the last few years the Me Too and all kinds of organization or a public protest against all kinds of things. And we formed 5 years ago in Israel Women Wage Peace. It's after the Gazan war, when we lost 70 soldiers, and the Palestinians lost a lot of lives, and nothing came out of it. Same. So we women that were involved in politics and all kinds of activities, public activities, we decided we have to form a new organization that will call to dialogue and negotiation to stop the ongoing wars and battles between the Palestinian and Israeli. No more. We have to consider all other options and opportunities to try to solve the situation. So we are now 50,000 women, and it's a new idea. What is the new about it? It's a grassroots organizations, and it put a lot of stress on variety of women. We are calling for women from the settlement, from the periphery, from the Arab society to collaborate with us and to call for dialogue and solution. We don't dictate what kind of solution. Like Mossi said, it doesn't matter for him because he wants human rights to be implemented, what kind of solution will be. We don't care what kind of solution will be, whether it's a two-state solution, which is the most logical and feasible, or the one-state solution, or any other solution, or whatever the two sides will agree to be a part of. And it's very successful. We are doing marches. We had a march a few years ago from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. Tens of thousands of women and men, some men, of course, 1,000 women from the Palestinian Authority were sent by Abu Mazen. And we all assembled in the Dead Sea with the Nobel laureate from Liberia. And we were calling and preaching for peace, for dialogue, for starting or stopping all these aggressions. We are doing a lot of things. We are going to the Knesset. We are meeting with the leaders of the parties. And we are trying to promote all kinds of laws that will back us on our initiatives. So I believe, and I'm a part of some other civil society organizations, which are quite important and quite influential in the civil society. And for instance, in the Rabin's Memorial 2 weeks ago, in the Kikar Rabin, in the municipality, we 4 women from Women Wage Peace were talking on the podium. No other civil organization was talking, and also Benny Gantz, who is the head of Kahol Lavan. All the 4 of them, one religious, one Arab Israeli, one what we call Oriental Sephardic from the periphery, and one settler, moderate settler, woman. So this brings some new approach to the conflict, and we came here and we were asking you, the people in Austria and the European, to support the civil society movements of a dialogue, of trying to create empathy and listening to each other, and to learning the narrative of each other and accepting some of them, what we can, but not to fight anymore.
Thank you very much. Zeidan, maybe I come to you now one more time. What we have not been discussing yet, we talked a little bit about one two-state solution, a little bit about this homeland, but we never challenged the status quo. I mean, we have been asked today, like, is this a possibility to live with the status quo? Like, what would you say to that?
We are in a status quo.
So
we are. But shall we continue to live under this status quo? Status quo, it means continuation of occupation, expanding the settlements at the expense of the Palestinians and survival and existence and the coming generations, and ruling inside our democracy. To rule over other people, it demands that you gave your moral logic to survive. as a human being. So this is that I don't need it. I need this situation that the Palestinians have their destiny, neighbors, with cooperation like now. We are cooperating in each thing today. The only thing that we were not able to give them is formal recognition to establish their state and their destiny and their sovereignty. However, everything is cooperation. Every day, services are being extended to all the Palestinians. Certainly they have difficulties of roadblocks and searching them, but I can swallow these things. But the main thing is the destiny, the survival. So when we were not able to do that much in Israel, we approached the public opinion. Now we decided to come to Europe to ask, first of all, to update you and to ask you to support our vision, our common goal through writing or talking to your parliamentarians who are mostly very vigilant about the situation. So we are mobilizing the European public opinion, the individuals and the groups and the institutions. We need your help because we are talking with the human beings in Palestine or in Israel. So we need your humanitarian approach in order to help us resolve the question through, if not through your own energy or knowledge or writings, and you have to make the communication, you can reach the Knesset in one click on your computer or the Prime Minister office. But mainly we would like your help and solidarity to support this approach through your parliamentarians or public figures or policymakers in your own countries.
Thank you very much. And my last question for this first round goes to Mossi. We know that the main issues which are at least always presented, why there is no progress in a peace process. We hear about security, the issue of the refugees, then we have the holy sites, the settlements, but also natural resources. What would you say? People say, and I think it is, and it has been discussing for several years, the conflict is not new, it's a very old conflict. So everyone is actually would probably agree that technical solutions would be there. But it seems that people are not convinced. People are not convinced that this would actually be of a mutual benefit. What would you say? Like, are there some innovative or creative ways how to bring people to understand that they would actually, all of them would benefit for the initiation of a peace process? It would be Israel, it would be Palestine, but it would also be Europe, because we cannot forget that we are part of the neighborhood of the region. What would you say to that?
First, it's not only that we don't have progress in the peace process, we don't have peace process at all. Actually, officially, in the last 6 years, we don't have peace process at all. And even when we had, I can say that in the last 11 years, we don't have any relations with the Palestinians in the official level, part of few months under Netanyahu when Eti Livni was the negotiator. So, and people say, we tried and we failed. And I told them, okay, we tried war so many times and we all failed. We didn't solve anything. So let's assume that we tried once to achieve an agreement and we failed. Why not try again? Now, the problem is, for my opinion, that there is a strong side here. It is Israel. And life are okay in Israel. The economy is doing very well. Income increased under Netanyahu in about 40%. Security is fine. Not very good, but fine. So people don't feel any urgency to make something. People are afraid of the future. We know what happens now. Okay, It's not that good. There are missiles, there are casualties in both sides. In the Palestinian side, it's 20 times more than in the Israeli side, by the way. There are casualties in both sides, but we know what happens. And people don't want to take risk. Now, we must convince them that the situation today, first, is not moral. There are things that are not done. And we are doing those not done things every day. Second, we must convince them that the fact that now everything is okay doesn't say anything about tomorrow. The lack of peace will bring to war. And then people will say, it's too late. So this is what we have to tell them. And it has to be with major tools from both sides. I want to mention President Shaddad, the Egyptian late President Shaddad, 42 years ago, exactly 42 years ago, last week. He came to Jerusalem to speak to the Israelis, and all the Israelis changed their mind. Before he came, majority of Israelis said, we will never withdraw from the Sinai desert for peace. And the Prime Minister Begin said, even not 1 millimeter. I'm going to be a settler in Sinai. Himself, this is what he said. He came to Jerusalem, and then everything changed. And Israel withdrew from all Sinai. I'm not saying that it is that easy, it's different, it is more difficult, but coming the new Israeli Prime Minister, I hope soon, on March, if we have new Prime Minister, he has to go to Ramallah to speak to the Palestinians, to tell them, we are going to bring an end to 50 years of occupation, that we made bad things to you, and you made bad things back, and we were pushing you in power, and you were pushing back. Stop to this. And even the Palestinian president, I know that it's very difficult, should come to Tel Aviv to speak to the Israelis. And we must know that we need the help of the world. Negotiations are not enough. If you have powerful side, Israel, that negotiate with the Palestinians that are powerless, the powerful side can dictate who is in jail and will not be coming, who will be stopped in the checkpoint. You cannot negotiate like that. You need mediation, I would even say arbitration.
Thank you very much. And I was going to go into the audience already, but I have one last question to you, Shaddad, because I really think we also should discuss the Palestinian side a little bit more, and especially also the fragmentation within the Palestinian society and also the Palestinian political representation. We are waiting for elections, especially in Gaza. The last elections were in 2006, I think, and that is now 13 years from now. And you know the situation better there. But I think it would be very important also to share about this, like what is going on there, what is the future there for, how can the Palestinian people then come probably better together to fight for their cause commonly based on similar or the same values in the best case.
Actually, and to be transparent, adding to our problem with the occupation, we're facing our internal problem, and that's really what's killing us, which is the internal division. Since Hamas taken over coup d'etat in Gaza Strip and taken power that's the start of the division among Palestinians. And that's hurt us a lot, and especially it gave those who doesn't believe in peace an argument that we don't have partner with whom we negotiate, with those who's governing Gaza or with those who's sitting in West Bank. So it's a reality that we have to face, and that's affected our political entire system. We witnessed that the president dissolved the Legislative Council. So we don't have a parliament, and also we don't have elections since 2007. 2006, okay? And that's really, it's not good for the Palestinian image. There is a reason behind there is no election, which is that Hamas refused to run election in Gaza. So we had this internal debate, can we run the election just for half of the country? Then we figure out that also Israel doesn't allow us to run election in East Jerusalem. So now, the recent speech of the President Abbas in front of the UN, he said, upon my return to the country, I will be issuing a decree calling for election. And now there is an internal debate, and there is a huge pressure on the Palestinian leadership that we don't want only a legislative parliamentarian election. We would love to have both presidential and legislative election. So in order to reform our political system. So we do have our own problem, so we don't deny. And we hope that Hamas is supposed to respond officially today, but they postponed their response, which is again delay, which is against it's intimidate us and in front of the ourselves and in front of the public, because public is looking for democracy, and also in front of the international community. So we would like to resolve our problem now with Hamas enabling us to run election in Gaza, and then we will see how to get your good officers to convince Israel to enable us to run election in East Jerusalem and to run election in West Bank. So I cannot tell more as long as the presidential decree has not been issued, because we were expecting such decree yesterday, this week. So we hope. So we're not saying that everything at our side is really perfect. No, it's not. And this is by respect to you. I'm telling you this because also you are seeing in your eyes what's happening in our sides. So yes, there is a lot of problem that we have to fix at our side, but again, the problem that we're facing is not only at the leadership level. No, the people themselves. Again, it's their right to live in freedom and dignity, and their right for access and movement. And we would love and we are committed to live in security and peace with Israel. Let me just tell you a few things. The core issue of the conflict between the Israeli and the Palestinian are 5 issues. One is water, okay, and water is resolvable because there is a quantity of water right that we have to agree upon, and there is the sea that we can go both Israeli and Palestinian desalinate. Then the border. The border, we agreed, and please listen to this, to border modification. Our position is rely on 242 and 1967 border, and we accepted what's so-called the land swap and land modification. This will enable resolving the third issue of the conflict, which is the settlement issues. By accepting to this concept of land swap, 80% of settlers will be annexed to Israel, so will become an Israeli citizen, with the settlements along the green line. So the only problem remain with the settlement inside the territory, inside the West Bank. And it comes to the fourth issue, which is refugees. Refugees around the world, international law calls for their right of return. It's not only applicable to the Palestinians. So we call for right of return. But we developed modality for the right of return. After securing this, we give option to those refugees, okay, to return back to the Palestinian state. This is why it's important to have a Palestinian state, Mossi, okay. Second, to give them the choice to stay wherever they are, because we are president in Salvador, Palestinian origin. We are the one who decide everything in Chile. So, and we are businessmen and capitalists in Jordan. Maybe they don't wish to return back. They would like just to have their right of return, and they stay in Jordan or where they are. And the fourth, with the help of the International Committee, and there's agreement on this, that people select choice to come to Vienna, okay, to go to Australia, to Canada, to France, to Europe. Okay, these are the modality, but those to return back to Israel. And this is which create the fear for the Israeli, for the Jewish identity of the state. This is what the argument. We said and agreed upon for those to return back to Israel, and they will become an Israeli citizen. We're not saying you return and you are Palestinian. No, they are becoming Israeli citizen, and it's in agreement with the Israeli. As far as for the fifth issue, which is an issue that related to religion, so we call for Jerusalem to remain an open city, where access and freedom of access to all religious site. So this is to provide kind of a framework agreement between Israel and Palestine, and then we work the details related to all of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now we have still some time for questions from the audience. And I would say we just, if it is a specific question to one of the panelists, please indicate to whom. And I would say we collect 3 questions, 3, 4 questions, and then we let them answer, or maybe then we have time for a second round. 1, 2. I didn't see it. There in the very back, and one in the front on the left. Yeah. But you start. Yeah. Can you present yourself?
Hans Geithner, I'm with the institute here. We do have this. First of all, thank you for your fascinating arguments. Many of them I have heard the first time, and the dialogue is very important. So I appreciate this. But we do have this Kushner plan. So nobody of you mentioned this one. So and the Kushner plan seems to drop the two-state solution. So it basically wants to pay off the Palestinians. And all what you mentioned, Mr. Attili, moving the capital to Jerusalem, the closing of the representations, the recognition of the Golan Heights, the recognition of that the settlements are legal, seem to be part of the political side of the Kushner plan. What concerns us here is that Europe is sidelined in this whole process. The European Union is not there. So, of course, my question is, except involving what you suggested, the civil society writing letters, which is all important, what could the European Union do to bring itself back to the process? And one suggestion from my side would be for a bold move. Should the European Union now, as reaction to this Kushner plan, just recognize Palestine as a state?
Thank you. Pete, please. Oh.
Okay, I think it is going in the direction of Heinz's question. My name is Pete Hemmerle from International Fellowship of Reconciliation, and we've been working in the Israel-Palestine for about 20 years, mainly supporting grassroots, peace, non-violent organizations. My question is what do you think about an initiative from Austria, because you several times mentioned you are looking for support also in Austria, to recognize the state of Palestine, because I'm asking this specifically because we have launched a parliamentary petition on this issue last year, and it is still pending in the parliament in Austria because there was new elections, and so it took some time, and it's still there, and it still can be supported. So it is partly a question to the audience as well. But I would like to hear from you what you think is this a useful initiative for your different approaches to the question. Thank you.
Right in front of you, down.
Questions which have just been asked, also in my head, but I suppose the question I want to ask really is an open one, and that is, why do you think so many European countries in both Central and Western Europe have still not recognized Palestine? And what do you make of the comments from the leader of the opposition in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn, who said that in the event that he wins the election, he would recognize Palestine? Would that be the beginning of a process towards perhaps recognition from neighboring countries as well? Thanks.
Thank you very much. And there in the back. Yes.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, everyone, because it was very interesting. And my question is also open for everyone who wants to answer to it. I was wondering, so the settlements keep being constructed, keep being expanded to the West Bank. The Trump administration is somehow supporting Israel in terms of with these moves it has done in terms of the embassy or the recognition of the settlements as not against international law. I was wondering if you think that there will be some point in which the two-state solution will reach a point of no return, in the sense that it will not be possible to be reached, that two-state solutions, because those settlements will be too into West Bank. The Trump administration will have supported Israel too much, and there will be a point in which we cannot, or Palestine cannot come back for Israel as well to the two-state solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As it was not, the questions have not been addressed specifically, I would just say we start from right to left. We still have time for a second round, I would say. And you can just pick the question you like. There was about the ultimate peace plan, the Kushner plan, or the recognition of the state of Palestine, the settlements.
Any decision, regional or international or local, that the relevant parties are not part of it, it will be imposed or it will be irrelevant completely. I hope I'm being understood. So Kushner and its company, they did the same decision in Washington. I don't know if they advised the Israeli, they consulted with the Israeli ambassador. So far, we don't have any information that they did. Also, Prime Minister, I don't know if they, behind doors, he agreed, but he was not physically there. One. Second, there's another party, the Palestinians. They were not present, they were not consulted, they were not advised. What kind of decision for anything that those who should be applied to that decision are not present when the decision was taken? I mean, it is like superiority against a minority. Take it or leave it. So it will be left alone, because I hope it wouldn't work. Because the American, unfortunately, I used to be a diplomat in America for 4 years, for Israel, as a diplomat. never has been fluctuating like the last 3-4 years. It is running from place to place, which means there is no diplomacy, consistency. You cannot, just like Prime Minister Netanyahu. Every week we have a new discovery from the Prime Minister office, new offers, new plans. So those who are supposed to obey or to correspond with that decision have to be part of that decision before it is being issued to the public. That's that I can answer. That I'm going to go through, since the issues are very crucial. As I say, 2 hours. It is existential for the Palestinians and for the Israelis, and for my children and future generations. Trump and Kushner and others will disappear, but we will stay in the Middle East. We are dealing with each other, the interaction or together. Now we are together here. Palestinians, Jews, parliamentarians, activists, different nationalities, different religions. So we are the subject or the subject of the problem, the core of the problem. The core of the problem cannot be healed by outside medicine.
First, I don't know anything about Kushner plane. I don't think that there is a plane, but I trust the American administration that if there is a plane, it's a very bad plane. So I don't think that we have to, I don't think that there is a plane anyhow. There are two possibilities when you say to recognize Palestine as a state. First, there is a resolution in the parliament that many parliaments in Europe already adopted. It's nice, it's good, please do. It doesn't solve the problem, yes, but it is okay, it helps. And the second one is official recognition by the state, by the government, like I think the only state in Europe that has done it, Sweden. The same. Please, I hope that UK will not be the second one. Any other state in Europe, the best is Germany or Czech Republic or Austria, but please not UK, please not Corbyn, because then it's going to help the Israeli propaganda against the Palestinian state. But we have to remember, it's only official recognition. It's not really recognized. It's not really change anything on the ground. And what does change things on the ground is the question about the settlements. And this is a good question. When can we say that two states solution is not possible anymore? We have now 650,000 settlers. Will it be 1 million, 2 million, 3 million? What will we take? Okay, 80% are staying, but even 20% of 2 million is a lot of people. I'm not sure that we can evacuate 400,000 people. So my answer, for my opinion, two-state solution is always viable. And when I talk about two-state solution, I talk about 67 borders with swap. Yes, agreed swap of land. Not about two-state solution like maybe Netanyahu meant, a state in Ramallah. No, I talk about Palestine is West Bank and Gaza Strip. And we can agree upon changes. But then, maybe we'll have to change, the methods that we achieved in the Geneva Initiative, that maybe we'll have to make some more swap, maybe we'll have to say, okay, maybe the Palestinians, we have to negotiate, accept some settlers to be citizens in Palestine. I don't know, but we'll have to think about it.
We're accepting that they live under our sovereignty.
Okay. So this is a possibility. I'm happy that you say that, but it is not to me to say, this is to you to say. And I want to say one more thing in the connection of Geneva that was mentioned. Geneva is not the Holy Bible, yes, but it's a good, very good model to agreement between Israelis and Palestinians. And if you ask me, if we have two leaders in Israel and Palestine that want to achieve peace, they don't have to negotiate more than 1 hour. They have to go to take the Geneva initiative and to say, okay, we sign. That's all. Don't negotiate, sign.
Do you want to add on that?
Yeah, actually we suffer along a lot from this triangle, Jason Greenblatt and Jared Kushner and Friedman, US ambassador in Israel in the past couple of years. You know, if I'm the president and my son-in-law run the business, I will be taken for the corruption, first. I don't know how the American system allows the presence of the son-in-law for Trump to run. It's not only the business, it's a horrible business that he's making. The first thing, recognition of State of Palestine, yes, this is an official Palestinian request, and we're flying all the capital of the world to get their recognition, and we're managing with the socialist parties, okay, to recognize Palestine as a state. And this is, yes, it's strengthening our position. It's, we will start talking about state under occupation, state, because now we will talk about occupied territories. Tomorrow we'll be talking about a state occupying another state, both members at the UN. But also it gives a push toward a two-state solution. Yes, it will help a lot. As related to the Trump plan, we call it the Trump plan or the ultimate deal. When they published the economic plan, as expert of water, and I used to be the water minister, I went to start looking at the water chapter. And you know what I found? I found all the projects that we identified in the Brazil Water Authority in the water strategy is there. And so I started questioning my other colleagues for agriculture, for education, and I found almost of these projects identified in the Trump plan, it's in our strategy. So the issue, it's actually almost taken from a quartet and player plan. But we're not looking for the economic deal, okay? We are looking for the political deal. Because yes, I will build a desalination facility, but the problem, is there a corridor between Gaza and West Bank? Is there a border? Is there, what about Jerusalem? Trump is saying Jerusalem out of the table. So this is why we said, it's peace bring economy, it's not the economy bring peace. And this is what I can say, and it's, we rejected the Trump plan despite it seemed they didn't implement everything, despite they keep delaying the publishing of this. We know what's in the political component because we see it on the ground. But our position is that a political solution is needed, it's not an economic solution.
Okay, I agree with all the speakers that we don't know what kind of a plan it is. We try to speak to people in the White House and the Foreign Affairs. We don't know, it's something hidden. But there was the first chapter of economy. And there was a lot of billions given to the Palestinian Authority in order to start a kind of economic growth and economic development. So I don't know, it's up to you, but why not to take the opportunities that are collaborating with your ideas and start to build some economy that will be viable, because you have a lot of problems. I don't want to deal with your problems. You just mentioned the government and the political try to build yourself from the economy side. Maybe it can lead, maybe. We will push for a political solution, but the economy is so important. What was the second question? To recognition of the Palestinian state. I think it's not important. What is important is the dialogue between the two sides. All kinds of recognitions and statements. It's nice to have, but it can deviate us from the main issue of negotiating peace, negotiating the parameters of the settlement, not the settlements, of the agreement. And as Mossi said in the Geneva Accord, and also in the Olmert suggestion with Abu Mazen together, there is solution for every single issue that might be acceptable by the two people. So we just have to take these books and to add to it the civil society recognition, the civil society feelings, the empathy, the two people to people dialogue.
Thank you very much. I think we still have 10 more minutes for 2 or 3 questions, and I would be happy for a little bit of a gender balance as well in the audience. So if there is, thank you very much. No, please the microphone. Yeah.
Women wage peace. WWP, you can go into the internet and find a lot of... just last week I've been in Germany and we got an award for our peace initiatives.
And the third point of the conflict with Israel, between Israel and Palestine.
You cannot hear. Nobody heard it.
You mentioned
5 points of the crucial points with the conflict.
Jerusalem,
yes,
refugees,
water, border, and this.
Border, settlement, water.
Security.
Security, you added
Security.
six. No, security, it becomes 6.
Mention all of them again.
No, water, border. The third
Refugees.
Jerusalem, you're missing.
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, you're missing. Thank you.
Yeah.
She adopted the Trump's vision. Jerusalem Arab.
My name is Tina Baranes. I'm from the Center for Israel Studies in Vienna. And I heard that recently 30 representatives of the Arab world met together in London for an Arab Council for regional integration ending 70 years of war and boycott of Israel. Do you know about it? Does this pave a new way for a dialogue? And is this something you can comment on?
I guess that's the question is directly addressed to Mr. Shaddad Attili.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, but the Arab met in UK, you said?
Yes, in London. It is the Council for Regional Integration.
I read an article, frankly I don't know. If I do know anything I would say about it. So
it was in the New York Times, wasn't it?
Exactly, yes.
This is just, I read an article.
Exactly, yes.
And I'm not sure that it's what I read in the article that they discovered that they were mistaken by boycotting Israel. This is it's like you. I just read that in an article.
Okay, and were there comments in Israel about this?
I heard it on the radio. I didn't know it, and I went to the New York Times to look for what is. There was all kinds of decision and calling for the Arab nations or the Arab countries to change the attitude towards Israel, to accept Israel as a state with all the rights there, and that will change the whole atmosphere vis-a-vis also the Palestinians. So not demonizing Israel, not calling Israel a demon, like always it was, but accepting the existence of the state of Israel.
Okay, and Eti, I have another question to you. Do you feel that the European community is supporting the civil society in Israel, especially your, I would say, your endeavor, your activities? Do you get any support if this is something like financial or it's just...
Do we get support, the civil society from
Europe? From the European...
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
In which sense?
As I said last week, I was in Bremen, in Germany. We got an award, which is also money. We got from all kinds of foundations, and we are supported by the Europeans and by private people and by foundations, and yes, we are.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think we can take one more question and then you can answer and also say like your last statement to it, and then I would say we need to close.
There is somebody way back.
Yeah, I got the microphone. I'm not that way back. But,
so we have to give him the right to ask because he was raising his hands from the very beginning.
Not so bad.
You see, I'm defending
We can take both questions, I would say. Yeah.
So I start. Oh, the gentleman, please.
Okay.
Why don't you speak? You have the microphone.
My name is Max Haller. I'm a sociologist, former at the University of Graz. I'm working in Vienna at the Academy of Science. I have a comment and a question. The comment is about the one-state solution. Mrs. Livni mentioned the problem that in a one-state, the Arabs, Palestinians would become a majority in demographic terms. But I think demography is no fate. That the Palestinians, such a state, will take over the power and behave badly against the Israelis would be resting on three conditions. First, they must have a common strong party. Second, they must act violently, and I think that's very improbable. First, the Arab Palestinians will not have one single party, like the Israelis have not one single party. And second, Palestinian people is very well educated. They are very different from the situation in sub-Saharan Africa where this happened. At some in Rhodesia, Zaire, the British people were expelled out. And third, it's also that radical people groups like Hamas take over power is only in a situation of oppression that exists now, but in a one-state solution that will not exist more. And the question about the two-state solution is, it was already mentioned that it's a big problem what to do with the West Bank, with the Israelis, with the Arabs there. Should one of those groups be removed? Will be very difficult. There is a historical case where this happened, the two-state solution in India and Pakistan. And what was the consequence of it? It took millions of deaths in 1947, and the consequence that we have Pakistan and India in a very strong, dangerous situation against each other, an authoritarian regime in Pakistan. So maybe a Palestinian state separated from Israel might also cause some of those problems. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the last question now. Yes.
Thanks. Should I present myself? My name is Chanoch Ben-Yemi. I'm from the newest university in Vienna, the Central European University, which opened here formally last week.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm a professor of philosophy, and as a philosopher I'll draw a distinction. I'd like to hear the views of the panelists about it, perhaps mainly the Israeli panelists. The settlers, which are a major obstacle to any peace agreement, pose a problem to Israel in two different ways, not independent, but different. One is there being an obstacle to a peace agreement. And this is not something that bothers many of the Israelis, as Mr. Raz has earlier described, for instance. A different thing is the fact that this is a group which doesn't respect the rule of law, that has grown out of itself terrorists, a murderer of the prime minister, people who have burnt to death children. They cost a fortune to defend them and support them by the Israeli government. They are a proactive group that tries to force their religious and political views through the Ministry of Education and other administrative units. In this aspect, they are a threat to most Israelis, independently of their view about the peace, the possibility of a peace agreement. So, do you think that targeting this threat that the settlers movement poses to Israel can help turn a larger part, and separating it from the peace issue, can help turn a larger part of the Israeli public in support of emotion against the settlers movement? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask, what do you mean targeting? What do you mean targeting the goal? Addressing.
We don't.
Addressing. More.
No,
targeting.
Challenging. No, I mean arguing that the settlement, it doesn't work. It's not working for some reason.
Telling the Israelis that the settlers are what is
wrong. And should be weakened, evacuated, etc. Not financially supported.
You want to start, and then also we finish then with you, and we go from left to right. I mean, it was more two comments, if you want to add something. I mean,
the first was a comment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The second was a question about targeting the
settlers as obstacles to peace process. And
there are, I don't know, Mossi gave 650,000 settlers. I don't know. We mentioned 400,000 usually the numbers. But the solutions, also the Geneva, also the Olmert, 80% of the settlers are going to move to the centers close to the green, and you have to consider that among these 400,000 or whatever, what number you know, most of them, not all of them, are radicals, are right-wing, are ultra-religious, not all of them, some of them, but not all of them. But the most voiceful are this kind of people, the right wing, and the use of the hills or whatever how they called, and the people that backed the assassinator of Yitzhak Rabin. But most of them are people that came to these places to embetter the life. To buy houses and apartments in a low cost, because it's very expensive to live in the center of Israel. And they grew and there are children and they are coming. And we believe that there is a big number of them that we will be ready in a kind of a negotiation and dialogue and peace agreement to move once they get their houses somewhere else. So there will be 20% only will stay, and I don't see them as a demons like you portray them. They are a very small minorities that are very aggressive and violent, and this. All the others are the noble people. So we have to deal with them in a normal way, just to push for the agreement.
Thank you. Maybe your last words for tonight?
I will not talk much about this, but yes, we are hijacked by the settlers, both Israeli and Palestinian, and those who are influencing the Israeli government, okay, for their interest, and this is why we reached to a deadlock in the peace process. The problem in the state nation law adopted by the Knesset that now they are considering settlement as a Jewish value. So this is adding and complicating the problem. So yes, settlers and settlement issues, this is what we have to address in order to enable the party to sit around the table to resolve other issues.
Thank you. Mossi?
First, I want to say about the settlers, 650,000 it include is Jerusalem, of course, and I did not include Golan. Anyhow, numbers are not that important. They keep increasing at about 5% every year, so about 30,000 each year. It is not the nature of the settlers today is not like it was 20 years ago. What do I mean? We are talking about a very large group. They are about 10% of the Jewish Israelis. Almost everybody in Israel has families in the settlements, or maybe not everybody. Most of the Jews in Israel, including me, have families in the settlements. And of course, very few settlers are terrorists. There are. The one who killed the prime minister was not a settler. We have to say that. Was a regular Israeli who used to live in Herzliya, a leftist city. So it's not that easy. From the economic point of view, while in the past, the people who led the settlement movement were, while they were very ideological, they were pretty wealthy. Today, the average income of settlers is way below average income in Israel. So it's not a privileged, we have to know that. It is not anymore a privileged group. Many of them are ultra-Orthodox, about 40% ultra-Orthodox. They went there, they don't have any, they don't want to conform the Palestinians, but this was the cheap place to live, and many others. So it's a large group, and we have to find solutions like Shaddad mentioned. 80% are going to stay under, and I think even I can tell those settlers, 80% of the settlers, I can tell the opposite. You know, it's better for you to support what we offer, because then first time you're going to be part of Israel. You're not part of Israel now. So I think this is the better way to work vis-a-vis the settlement. Now, vis-a-vis the settlement activity, expanding of settlements, you're absolutely right. In all the public opinion polls today, Israelis support settlements and support settlers. But two things, they have a problem with two things. One, they think that settlements are an obstacle for peace, and we have to mention that again and again and again. Second, was changed in the last 2 weeks. The Israelis were worried for 50 years that settlements are damaging our relations with the United States. Not anymore, so we lost one of our tools against the settlements activity. And for the one state, in one sentence, you have to know that one state, one person, one vote, okay, but we have to agree about the nature of the state. What is the flag? Is it a Jewish state, a Palestinian state? What's the name of the state? Israel, Palestine. What is the migration policy? Do we accept the Palestinian refugees? Do we accept Jews? We cannot agree upon that. That's why we need two states.
Thank you. And no more? Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we can give our excellent that we come together and that we discuss these issues also with the public audience, because as you see, there are partners for peace, and it is very important for us to acknowledge. And there are also people on both sides who are able and who are ready to accept the narrative of the other, to understand that everyone has an attachment to maybe the whole land even. And there is also very important to see that there are people who really think that we could all profit from a peace process. So now for me, it's the only thing I would like to say is that we would like to invite you to a glass of wine or a water, for you can stay for 10 more minutes. But also, I think it is also very important, I would like to thank again our colleagues, and especially Augustin Nicolescu for his excellent work he has been doing in the last 3 days. There in the back years, and the same is true for Joy Hellas and Marilla Huscha. Thank you very much.